Hello everyone, my name is Brian. I make artifacts with AI, and today I wanted to share a short video explaining a method I use in interacting with AI called reversed syntax analysis. And I just wanted to walk you through an artifact with a little explanation on what I mean by it. So first, to start, when you give AI a piece of data like Google Gemini or OpenAI's ChatGPT or Grok or Claude, if you give them a piece of data, you can ask them to analyze it for you. But after that analysis, you can also request secondary atypical analysis. For instance, you may continue with asking for meta-analysis, right? Asking for the big picture analysis. A technique I discovered, you might say, but is actually kind of common sense to humans, is this idea of reversed syntax analysis. And by that I mean examining the piece of data not just at face value, but examining what are the presuppositions that led to the existence of that piece of data to begin with. So the most intuitive example that I could come up with is a newspaper. You take a newspaper and you can read the headlines and the various articles and stories and take them at face value. But if you apply reverse syntax analysis, the document itself, the newspaper, a story is embedded as well. A story about where the paper came from and where the ink came from and what is journalism and what are the rules of journalism, etc. So a newspaper with just one analytical mindset, just taking it for face value, it leads to more ambiguity, but you can reduce that ambiguity if you apply reverse syntax analysis. And I've mapped it out on how to reduce ambiguity further by plotting it in 4 quadrants. So we've come with quad variant dual parallax analysis. And by dual parallax, I mean 2 different points of view, the local and the global. And that's, where we get our name, Parallax Game Studios. So let's take you over there. So just a brief walkthrough of what we have going on here. We're at our itch.io account where we have our various artifacts, our cartography, fractal explorers, lifting up a rock simulators, asteroid shooters. But our newest addition is the quad variant dual parallax analysis artifact, which I'll just pull it up here. And basically what it is just 4 simple slides with a general introduction, basically covering what I'm talking about and the terms that we're going to use in the slide, along with an expanded explanation for more academic purposes. But we have a simple slide here, and the simple slide just asks, when something happens and you don't know why, your mind reliably explores 4 explanatory directions. What caused this event? What broader context explains it? What immediate consequence follows it? And what does it imply long term? Our key insight: disagreements usually arise because people are answering different questions in different quadrants, not because one is irrational. So, real world example, personal miscommunication. A short email reply like fine might be interpreted locally as reverse. What prompted this curtness? Or globally as forward. What does this mean for our ongoing relationship? You get the email fine, and there's an ambiguity there. Nothing is explicated what is fine or what is not. Depending on which hat you put on, you're going to interpret it differently. Business decision, consider. A sudden stock drop could trigger reverse local analysis. Was it a company-specific error or forward global? What systemic market shift does this foreshadow? These examples illustrate how the framework can de-escalate conflicts by mapping different perspectives. So we have an additional tool here, our lab. And here we actually have the quad variant and the analytical tools over here on our right. And basically what this is, we can take an example, like a text message that says okay, or a market anomaly, social media trend, scientific data anomaly. Let's just say the newspaper headline. And we can see our pointer. It exists in one of the quadrants based on what interpretation you're giving it. And in the, I have to add some interpretive labels on the quadrants, but this is the above quadrant is forward looking in time, and the below one is reverse looking in time. And the scope bias is you're asking locally or you're asking globally. And then how ambiguous it is just governed by this right here. So plotting this, if we have some locally ambiguous piece of data, it bleeds over to the reverse ambiguity side of things. But indeed, when you highlight the quadrant with the example newspaper headline, the local explanation for an ambiguous headline, could be considered editorial framing, or if you want to take the global one, institutional narrative. So either the headline of the newspaper is editorial, a single decision made of the day, or we can conclude that it's the entire institutional narrative governing the reason for the ambiguity of the headline. Looking at reverse of these axes, an ambiguous headline is a marker of long-term trust locally, and globally, one of public impact. So we have the newspaper, the trust you have with the newspaper is on the reverse time part of the ambiguity, and the public impact. What does it mean to have the newspaper have wrong headlines across society in general? We go through different examples of this. For instance, a market anomaly. There's a market anomaly. The local reason, looking forward in time, it's just noise. The global reason, systemic forces. Or if we are looking backwards in time for our analysis, the market anomaly is due to a structural shift. Something has changed in the structure, and that's why there's an anomaly. Or we can explain it by immediate reaction, as a immediate reaction to a global incident that happened, precipitating the market anomaly. So basically the point is, typically we interpret data in just one of these quadrants based on the relationship at play, and the rest of it just falls into the area of common sense. However, with machine learning, this has mathematical underpinnings that might prove useful for AI model behavior and interpretability, platform governance and trust, intelligence and adversarial analysis, policy and strategic decision-making, education, and critical reasoning. My point is, we, in our day-to-day lives, have common sense, and it is analysis, it's atypical analysis, it's meta-analysis, and it's quad-variant dual parallax analysis, and possibly other forms of analysis, all rolled into one. And we move through time as flow. We flow through time A to B to C to D. For the computers, for the AI model, that time flow is discrete. It stops at a moment in time to examine the data. And with reverse syntax analysis, quad-variant dual parallax analysis, you're effectively changing its perception of time being a forward flow to the reverse flow. And with the reverse flow, we can ask AI to break down a piece of data and tell us the precipitating instances, causes, factors, however you want to say it, why that data is there. And that's why we are able to build such artifacts like we do, and why this niche market of artifact building and posting it for free does not yet have a proper market name, I suppose. But do please come down and on our YouTube channel explaining our build. You can go to our profile, Parallax Games Studios, the itch.io profile, and you can go through the dual parallax analysis tool yourself. Maybe try it out with some AI in your own private explorations. However, if we want to take this to a more broader global place, we're going to have to work together. And thank you so much, and we hope to see you again soon.